Coming up on today's edition of Vikings Now, I'm going to be deep diving into what a perfect plan for the Minnesota Vikings could look like with training camp only a couple weeks away. My name is Patrick Siepman. Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. And with training camp obviously just around the corner, I am going to dive into 5 moves, 5 things that I want the Vikings to get done or make with training camp just around the corner. But hey guys, if you guys are excited for some real football coming your guys' way soon, just give me a skull down in the comment section. I want this comment section looking like US Bank Stadium, Sunday, 12 p.m., week 1 when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roll in there, and you can just hear the skull, spam skull down in the comment section because I'm fired up to have some real football heading our way here in a second. But the number one step on my perfect plan for the Minnesota Vikings, I've talked about it. That is signing Marcus Peters, the free agent corner. Probably the best corner, in my opinion, left on the market so far. Played last season with the Baltimore Ravens, and he was pretty solid last year with Baltimore. You know, obviously not the most productive from like a box score perspective here, but playing in 13 games, still having 47 tackles, had 6 pass breakups as well. But the thing I love about Peters, he's a get-in-your-face type of corner. He doesn't need any safety help. He's a strictly man-to-man guy, and that's why I absolutely love him. And I think he would fit in very well with this Vikings cornerback room. Like I mentioned, I like Byron Murphy. Do I love him? No, I think he would fit better as a CB2, CB3. Then obviously we know the question marks around Andrew Booth and Caleb Evans if they will be able to step up. Then you obviously got the young guys, Mekhi Blackman, Tay Gowan, Joejuan Williams, and Kalen Barnes rounding out this cornerback room. But talking about Marcus Peters here, he fits what Flores' system wants to do, and he does it perfectly. If you talk about just a seamless transition for him from going to what he did in Baltimore to what he would be able to do with flow in Minnesota, I think he would love it. Because like I said about Peters, he's a strictly, get in your face, go one-on-one type of dude, and he wants to get up and play man-to-man. And obviously Flores, he loves the blitz, he loves to bring extra pressure, which most of the time, what does that mean? No safety help over the top. With the way Marcus Peters plays, that's no problem. But focusing on 2 guys here that need to step up in this Vikings cornerback room, these 2. Andrew Booth Jr. and Caleb Evans. Obviously, last year, both them sat out most of the year, or not most of the year, half of the year with injuries, and they weren't really able to kind of get their feet wet and kind of see what they can fully do in the NFL. So these 2, if you talk about wild cards on the Vikings roster, Booth and Evans, just keep your eyes out on them because they could either, make this defense and turn it into, maybe a top 20, top 15 defense, or maybe they could, be a huge negative at the end of the season. So these are 2 guys to keep your eyes on. My number 2 step of this plan, my second step of this plan, is extending the best wide receiver in the NFL, 18, Mr. Justin Jefferson, the newest 99 overall on Madden. And all I have to say is this: Kwesi, get this done. It is, let me actually check. It is July 19th, and I am so shocked that this deal hasn't been done yet. If I am Kwesi right now, I am giving him whatever he wants. I'm almost writing him a blank check. Obviously, that's not how it is actually going to go down. But Justin Jefferson, in terms of checking every box you want from a player you took out of the first round at 22 overall out of LSU, in terms of on-the-field production, well, he's got the most yards in the NFL since he entered the league. In terms of off the field, he has been a great role model for the city of Minnesota or city of Minneapolis and just other players in that locker room. But last year, putting up 1,800 yards and barely playing the last week of the year, absolutely fantastic. Led the NFL in receiving with 1,809 yards with Tyreek Hill, Devontae, A.J. Brown, and our good old friend Stephon Diggs there rounding out at number 5. But Kwesi, we all want 18 back, and I want to extend them. And why not get this done sooner rather than later? Because the price is just going to keep on going up. And once Jamar Chase gets extended, Jefferson's going to want a little more than that. So let's get Jefferson locked up before, just to maybe save the Vikings a couple extra bucks. Number 3 here, we're talking about it. Bringing back Dalvin Cook. I said it. Bringing back Dalvin Cook would be step number 3 of my perfect plan. And the reason I'm talking about this, because we got a report that came out that the Vikings have an offer of $7 million per year on the table for Dalvin Cook. And I kind of want to pat myself on the back here a little bit because I kind of called this. I said Dalvin Cook, when he left the Vikings, I did believe that Kwesi said, you can go test free agency, but if you don't get a good enough offer, this door will always be open, and the offer stands at $7 million a year. But in terms of a production standpoint, for Dalvin. We've definitely seen the decline over the past couple years. Rushing yards over expected. I like using this engaging running backs' overall productivity, and if they're getting the most bang for their buck from that standpoint. This last season was the first season Dalvin Cook found himself in the negative. That 2020 year, he was absolutely special at 0.81 yards over expected. It was the first time in his career that was in the negative. I did think this one quote from Kirk Cousins was incredibly interesting because this was right after the Vikings did move on and cut Dalvin Cook. And this is what he had to say. Wanted to take the time to acknowledge the respect I have for him as a player and a person. The difference he's made for our team, his toughness, his consistency. I think he's been to 4 straight Pro Bowls. That says it all right there. But this is what's interesting. I'm excited to see where he goes. I'll always be pulling for him, and I'm kind of optimistically hoping maybe we get him back. Who knows? Maybe there is an outside chance. We'll see. And that's interesting because Kirk, he didn't need to say that. Like, he could have just kept going down that path of just, praising Dalvin, saying he did such a good job in Minnesota. We loved having him, but I'm happy for him, and I'm excited to see where he goes. But maybe Kirk knows something we don't. And maybe Kirk's kind of knowing that door is slightly left open just in case Dalvin wants to return. But some more on Dalvin Cook and his overall production last year. I think this is interesting. Coming from Kevin Seifert, he covers the Vikings for ESPN, and he said he led the NFL with 62 carries that either lost or did not gain a yard. I'll repeat that because I think that's incredibly interesting. He led the NFL with 62 carries that either lost or did not gain a yard. And ESPN's Bill Barnwell noted only 34.5% of his carries gained a positive total of yards over expectation in Next Gen Stats model, the second lowest rate among running backs with at least 200 carries in 2022. In other words, Cook was less consistent in 2022 than he ever has been before. And I agree, and I'm kind of in the same spot as Kevin, but I'll toss the question your guys' way. If you're Kwesi and you have that offer out there, if you say Dalvin, $7 million a year, are you bringing him back? Give me a Y for yes or give me an M for no. I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. Number 4 on my list, extending another one of the better players on the Minnesota Vikings, Danielle Hunter. Because Danielle Hunter, obviously a report that came out, and he would not be attending Vikings training camp if he is not, paid more. And his base salary this year, $4.5 million. I'm sorry, Danielle Hunter, he's a top 12, top 10-ish edge rusher still in the NFL, and I still think he's got that top 7 potential once he gets healthy. But I'm sorry, he's not playing for $4.5 million, Kwesi. You're going to have to extend him. You're going to have to give him more base salary this year. At least get that up to at least 12 or 15. But, from a productivity standpoint, Danielle Hunter is still one of the best guys in the league. I did think last year, I thought the transition of going from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense affected him a lot more than we thought. 10.5 sacks with 7 of those coming within the final 8 games. I think he was finally be able to get his feet wet a little bit and just get a little more comfortable in the system. But back in that 2019 year, 14.5 sacks. It's not shown on screen right now, but 2018, he had 14.5 sacks as well. And that's why I'm in the camp. Kwesi, bring him back to Minnesota and lock him up. I understand he's 29 years old. He's had 2 major surgeries with his pec and his neck, but I don't care. I still think he can be a very productive edge, and I think he's got that kind of superstar talent in him. So I would be all in on bringing him back. Maybe you give him a 3-year, let's just say $40 to $50 million deal. You backload a lot of the contracts so you can't cut him maybe after year 2. But overall, the Vikings need him because if they don't have him, that edge group is going to be pitiful next season. Number 5, interesting one. I kind of threw you guys a curveball with this one, so stay with me. I think KJ Osborn is going to get the wide receiver 2 reps at the beginning of the season. Because right now, if you look at the Vikings wide receiver room, obviously we have Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in the league. He's wide receiver 1, no doubt. But then you have the question. We did draft Jordan Addison at 23rd overall in last year's draft. And we do have KJ Osborn, who has been the face of the Vikings wide receiver 3 position for the past couple of seasons. And he's been great. And kind of my point with all this is I think Osborn deserves this. I don't want the Vikings sending a message to the other players in the locker room where it's like, hey, no matter what you do, if we draft a guy we like better than you, even if you produced, we're going to go with that guy getting the reps first off overall. And honestly, listen, KJ last year, I thought he was great for the Vikings. He had over 60 receptions, 650 yards, and almost 11 yards per catch. And keep this in mind when you see those numbers. He was legitimately the 4th option in the passing game. Jefferson's getting a ton of targets. We all know that. Thielen last year got a ton of targets as well. But then you also got to think about the tight end, TJ Hawkinson. He was probably getting the third most targets on the team. So KJ, with the fourth most targets, still able to put up 650 yards. I just think it's incredibly, incredibly impressive. But my take with all this, I do think Jordan Addison, he will be the wide receiver 2 by the end of the season. But listen, man, he needs to earn it. Like, we all know Kevin O'Connell's playbook is very tough to pick up on. You know, rookies have struggled in the past of kind of, fully getting immersed in this system, be able to fully master it. This is KJ's second year. I would lean towards him in the beginning of the season just because he's been more experienced and he's just had more reps in the system. But overall, end of season, I do expect Addison to be the wide receiver 2. KJ moved back to wide receiver 3, and the Vikings have one of the best receiving cores in the National Football League. But I give you 5 moves the Vikings need to make. You just need to give me one. Name one move the Vikings need to make before training camp gets underway in about, 10 days now at the end of July. So anyways, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. As always, guys, give me a follow on Twitter. I'm going to be tweeting about the Vikings all throughout the season and leading up to the season. So if any news and rumors comes out around the team and you just want more Vikings content on your timeline, hit me up at Pat Siepman. I'll put the link for that in the comment section and the description of today's show. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes.